Hello, this is Corey. Before we go to today's episode, I have some exciting news I want to share with you. Think about it on a scale from 1 to 10. How important is it for you to get this next year right? For many leaders, the answer is they can't afford to miss the mark in 2021. Because of the impact 2020 had on their business, their personal life, or their home life, they can't afford to miss that mark in 2021. So in light of all the tools that we already have at our fingertips, what else can we do to ensure success? We have found that one of the biggest blind spots of helping leaders and organizations reach their full potential is misaligned or mismanaged priorities. For example, when that CEO says it's all about the people and culture, but yet all they're ever talking about is profit. Or when that business leader talks about working at a healthy pace, but yet their expectation is you work 24/7. When you have misaligned priorities, your best leaders leave. This is why we're excited to announce the Prioritize Leader Academy. We recently launched this academy in Cincinnati, and due to the early success, we want to take this virtually to impact leaders outside of Cincinnati. This mastermind will bring together a few key components. The first one is content. This 12-month program will be centered around the Prioritize Leader framework. This is a proven framework that we've used for years with leaders and organizations. Second is community. We all know we don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And so this mastermind will surround you with other leaders that you can learn from. The third component is coaching. In between our mastermind sessions, there will be one-on-one coaching to help you implement the learnings into your personal and professional life. And the last component is this will be faith-centric. We will be bringing faith and scripture into our meetings, into our content and conversations to make sure that we are all Christ-centered leaders going forward. So if you are looking for accountability, outside perspective, and this sounds like it will help you reach your personal and professional goals, then the Prioritize Leader Academy is for you. We launch in April. We've got limited capacity. So visit CoreyMCarlson.com/Prioritize Leader Academy to learn more, as well as some upcoming free webinars that we will be having to do any Q&A to help answer any questions that you may have for this. So thank you for listening on to today's episode.
Welcome to the Win at Home First podcast. I'm your host, Corey Carlson. This podcast is where we talk about how successful business leaders win, not only at work, but also at home. On this podcast, we'll go behind the scenes with great leaders to hear stories of how they win. Thank you for listening, and on to today's episode.
Hello, this is Corey. The episode with Lucas today is a great one because we talk about a lot of things that we think about, but we never really talk to other people about, such as why we get lost on our phone. Is it maybe just the fact that we don't want to spend time with God? Talk about how our belief in God and what he's doing in our life can sometimes drift back and forth. We also talk about there's things at work that we would never allow, but we allow at home, such as not having family meetings. And so it's just a great discussion, and I hope it is impactful to you as it was to me. So on to today's episode. Hello, this is Corey Carlson. You're listening to Win at Home First podcast. Today, I'm joined by Lucas Cole, and just a great leader, great family man, strong in his faith, and excited to share wisdom of his with you today. He is a CEO of Epifio. They are a video production studio that helps people understand complex ideas. They had a video with Google Wave that went viral years ago, put them on the map, and they just continue to grow. And some exciting times right now as they are hiring people and growing. He also is a father of 5 with one in the oven. And so a lot going on, but yet he's intentional in all areas of his life and a strong family on mission guy. So just awesome to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Lucas, what is that key trait to win at work and win at home?
Well, I think it's kind of like the title of your book. I think you have to get the order right. And if the order is win at work and then win at home, I think you get it, you lose. I think that the family and the home has to be priority number one. And if you can start there, and it's a challenge to start there. It takes a little bit of a paradigm shift, but if you can start there, that's my ultimate identity. My ultimate identity is as a father, is as a husband. And the most important thing that I do with my life is the legacy I leave with my family and my children, and how my wife thinks about me and how my children's children will think about me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you have a shot at doing both well. But I think if you get that order wrong from the get-go, you're starting in the hole, and good luck.
Yeah. How do you, as CEO of a company that's growing, how are you grounding yourself or recalibrating yourself to win at home first, to keep that on point? Because there's going to be different demands that are saying, hey, come to work, come to work. Yeah, there's more to do.
Yeah. I think one of the most helpful things, that I've done with this is to not treat work like something else that I do. And, and then there's family life, which what we do, right? I've tried to, as best as I can, help my family see that this is our business. It's our, I'm the only one that goes in every day, but it's, the family, you could say, is like sending dad to work. And it's like the best use of dad's time and skill is to go do this business, but it's our business. And if the family ever thought that it wasn't the best use of my time, I'd stop doing it. Right. And would do something else. Right. So, my wife and I talk about it like it's our business. My children, when whenever I'm going out through a big decision with the business, I talk to my young kids about it. And I've shown them contracts even, saying, hey, like this is a big deal for us. Right. And so it allows me, it takes that silo down a bit where it's like, I've got my work life and then I have my family life. It's just my life. And this is my clan. This is my group, and you got to be appropriate with how much you share and,
right.
All that kind of stuff. But my kids don't like looking at Salesforce dashboards as much as I do, but
kids, it's time for the KPIs.
That's right.
Come around, grab your, bowl of cereal. We're going to talk KPIs this morning.
That's right. But yeah, praying, even, we made some big decisions this past year with the business, and, every night at dinner, we would pray together as a family about it. And it was even funny, even after the decision was made, my youngest son, Josiah, every time he'd want to pray, he would pray for that decision. Yeah. And I'd have to be like, oh yeah, we already did that, Josiah, but no, good job. Cause he was so used to us praying through things that pertain to the business. So yeah, I think trying to integrate, that word integration is just so important. Like, don't, be very careful when there are those silos that come up. Be very careful when those walls are there, because they create that separation. And the more you can bring those two worlds together, the better chance you have at keeping them, at harmony with each other.
I completely agree. And there's so much fruit out of it. I mean, you mentioned some of it already, but I've talked with leaders. It's separated. I don't want to talk, my kids don't understand, or my spouse doesn't understand everything that's happening. Well, that's absolutely true if you never communicate it.
That's right.
You're right. If you never shared coworkers' names or any of the ups and downs, I've also seen a lot of breakthrough in our house, because they can tell when I'm excited. They can tell when I'm not excited and I'm upset. And so trying to play tough guy and just, hide it doesn't help. And also, if I lose a client or got a difficult meeting and it affects me, they need to know that. And right. They need to also know, hey, we are going to lose sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a bad grade on a test. You're going to lose a soccer game. You're not going to get, top 3 in gymnastics. Right. And it's okay.
And it includes them in the importance of it. Like, I share it with them because it's important for our family. Like, what dad does is important. Right. And that's why I'm excited. Like, hey, this is a big deal. Right. And bring them into that, it gets them more invested in what I'm doing. So yeah, totally.
Here you live in Cincinnati, but in Cincinnati, I launched a mastermind group of business leaders to, have them come into this group. And we had our first meeting, and, I was working hard on what I was going to talk about, and the family was involved. We were doing family prayers. And when I left the house that day for it, the individual texts I was getting from my 3 kids and my wife, I mean, I was fired up to go in there, because we were doing it together.
That's awesome.
And, and so that's just so neat. Sounds like you guys are doing the same thing. And for those that aren't, I encourage you, because you got a team around you, and use that supporting cast.
That's right. Absolutely. It's good stuff, man.
So you're busy, obviously, running a company, running a family. What does your typical day look like, from getting your quiet time in and father time, husband time? Like, how do you go about your day?
Yeah, well, we have a 1-year-old who
throws everything off schedule.
Yeah, he gets up at 6 a.m. on the dot.
Yeah,
and he's ready to rock and roll first thing in the morning. So we've had to adjust our routines, just about with every child. But it looks something like, before all the other kids are up, Tara and I, that's my wife, and Caleb, who's our youngest, we kind of hang out in the living room, have our coffee, have a conversation. I might read a book that I'm reading. She's reading a book. We might talk about what we're reading about. Then, the kids come out and they're ready to rock and roll. They need food. The house just comes alive real fast. Right.
Yeah.
And so, we don't always sit down and have breakfast together, but we're typically cooking breakfast and eating relatively around the same time and around each other. And then I typically start kind of getting after the work stuff, like around between 8 and 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my office, right?
Yeah.
It's at home. It's just on the other side of the house. And I tell you what, recently it hit me like a sack of bricks, how, just how fortunate I am to have this room, because I've tried working out there and it doesn't work.
At the dining room table?
No, it does not work. Right.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people, quarantining in the epidemic or the pandemic kind of, changed things up. We used to have a big office space for Epifio, and I used to go in there. So I usually come back here, start doing my stuff, my phone calls, my meetings, my reports, all that kind of stuff. And then I just head right out that door every 30 minutes, hour or so, grab something to drink, say hi to the kids, ruffle their heads a little bit, check in on them. We homeschool our children. So they always want to share something they're doing with me. There's, some writing exercise or something that they want me to see. And then I just kind of keep bouncing back and forth. I do my work and I head out there. And I've actually really liked working from home for that reason. I mean, I think we've done a good job of letting the children know, like, hey, when I have to work, I have to work. And when I've got 10 minutes, I'll pop out, and I'll see it. So I try to wrap it up by around 5. Sometimes that stretches to 6, sometimes a little bit later. Most of the time I'm pretty good about getting it done at 5 o'clock. We try to have a set dinner time at 6. Yeah. So, we know, and kind of the arrangement I have with Tara is she's got a lot going on. She's homeschooling, 4 children, and she's got a newborn, and she's pregnant, not newborn, but 1-year-old. So I always tell her, look, I can make dinner, but I can't think about dinner. Right. Like if I come out of my office and you say, like, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, I'll pick the worst thing. It's pizza.
We're getting pizza again.
That's right. Right. But if you tell me we're having salmon and scallops and asparagus and it's in the fridge, I'll make it. Right. As long as I don't have to think about it. Right.
Yeah.
So she usually has everything planned. I usually go out there and I cook things, and I like to cook. So I get dinner going. And then after dinner, my 2 oldest girls take care of the kitchen. They clean up everything. And then we usually do something as a family before bedtime. And then I'm by nature more of a morning person. So about 8:30 p.m., I start turning into a pumpkin man. So I'm like, the brain waves start shutting down. And I'm usually in bed by like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So
yeah, I do get tired as well.
Yeah.
How are you about computer and phone after 6 o'clock?
Ooh. Yeah. After dinner. So I don't have like a commute home. I don't have like a space between when I turn my work day off and when I start, the family day. Like I literally usually come out of my office and I walk into the kitchen and I start cooking. That's typically what it's like. Right. So I usually have that decompress time, like right after dinner. And quite frankly, I don't make the best use of it. I'm usually on my phone, watching something on YouTube, some clip of some obscure sitcom from 10 years ago or something like that, And this is actually something that I do want to work on. I want to make better use of that time. I heard a quote recently that was very convicting from A.W. Tozer. He said, I can tell how much God someone has by how much entertainment they need. And I was like, ooh, like,
you're like, oh, my YouTube watch.
Yeah,
Oh no.
Right. No. But it is, it's it's a bad habit, and I want more God. So, I gotta pay attention to that.
Yeah. What are you hearing from God right now?
Put down the phone.
There you go.
No, I mean, honestly, we're going through we're actually getting coached, a structured coaching as a family on how to kind of like live out the mission that Jesus gave us, which is to make disciples. So we have a coach who's like teaching us how to do this. And I tell you, man, this guy has been just such a blessing to us. And I think what I feel like God's talking to us about right now is just reminding us and kind of re-inspiring us around the bigness and the beauty of the gospel. And I don't mean to sound cliche there. Like, I don't mean to sound like, oh, that's like the pat answer, right?
Yeah.
But really, truly, like, do we believe that the hope of the world is Jesus? Do we believe that everything we need is found in the gospel? Like, do we believe that? Like, do we believe that the hope for politics and the hope for the pandemic and the hope, it's in Jesus? And you can get far away from that, like you can kind of start getting into these other strategies and all this kind of stuff. And I feel like God's just been, re-exciting me about that day that I came to believe and all the hope I had, for things that can start to get kind of washed out over the years. So
that's neat as you talk about that, because a little bit of what you just talk about the YouTube and the Tozier comment, and then here, and then I've talked a lot with folks about, hey, we're to go called and make disciples. So some of those disciples are right there in our home. And a lot of times we overlook our own home thinking about, hey, the frontier, let's go make all these disciples in the marketplace.
That's right.
But there's that piece of kind of all those blended together, like, for you, and I've got areas to improve as well, as I even say this out loud, but it's like, hey, I need to put down my phone, not look at YouTube, and actually live out making disciples in my own home.
Yes.
By being intentional with my kids and modeling what we want to be modeling when we get outside these four walls.
That's right. And what I feel like, in terms of what God's talking to me about, I think the question I've been wrestling with, Corey, is like, why don't I want to do that? Like, what is going on in me that I don't want to do that? Like, what is going on in me that I would rather zone out and veg out? To me, I think it's a belief thing. I think that, there's a belief that has been, that I've let kind of slide. And as I feel like my belief is starting to kind of come back in the importance and in the bigness of the story of God, I'm feeling myself wanting to do that stuff, and I think that's a good place for us to start there. Is like, if we look at our life and we're like, why am I not doing the things that I think I should be doing? Well, that's a good question to ask. Like, maybe you don't believe, maybe you don't believe, as much as you think you should believe, which is exactly where I've kind of found myself recently.
So you mentioned kind of a drift away. Now, coming back, can you point to something that was kind of causing this drifting away, and then also point to I'm back on fire. I am seeing God's, bigness and, just his overall powers. Or can you see that?
Yeah, I think what happens, I can say this for my life. Maybe it's other people. I've heard this story before, but you try things and they don't work out the way you thought they were going to work out. And you develop some level of jadedness, and you start to arrive at the wrong conclusions. You start to say, well, I tried that, it didn't work, therefore, this must not be true, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so, I looked back, I think recently, and said, I've tried a lot of things and they didn't pan out. I tried, having a community of people that were on mission for God. I tried that, and it always just blew up in my face. And so I guess just having a comfortable, Christian life is the best I can hope for.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you meet other people and you hear other things and you see that, oh, wait a minute, maybe I just went about those things the wrong way, or maybe I had the wrong attitude about them, or maybe there was just something I missed a little bit. And, if I just tried it again, it would happen, So I think that what happened for me is, and quite frankly, to be candid, I think I approached a lot of things in my life with a spirit of religion. Like, what should I be doing? And then doing them and feeling, kind of going about it begrudgingly and always feeling like there's something else I should be doing for God or whatever you want to call that, right? And I think recently this coach has helped me to see it's not what we should be doing, it's what we get to be doing.
Right. That's good.
And that's been a big shift of like, oh, wait a minute. The gospel is huge. It's amazing. It sets people free. It's wonderful. It's the best news you could possibly hear. And I get to help people live into that reality. That's very different than thinking, boy, Jesus said, go make disciples. What should I be doing, to do that? It's that shift. And that's what I feel like my heart is getting back on fire about.
Oh, that's cool. It's exciting that, you're getting fired up. But a couple of things as you're talking, I was thinking of is, one is to be that just a good Christian. That's easy. That really doesn't bother the devil. He's going to leave you alone.
That's right.
Because it's, just being a nice guy is not really a threat. But when you're going out, starting community groups, when you're going out, doing things, kind of causing some havoc in a good way, expanding the kingdom, well, unfortunately, there's spiritual warfare against you. I had a buddy mentor the other day say, if you're not creating fires, then you're playing it too safe. You got to get out and make some aggressive moves. And so I get that completely.
Well, and I've said that, I've actually used that in my business. Like, hey guys, like if we're not like coming into work every day going, whoa, I hope we're not pushing hard enough. Like we're not pushing in. And the same is true with this life. Like life should be lived kind of on the edge a little bit. Like why? So because that's when we realize that it's God's strength that gets us through. It sounds cliche, but it's like, if everything's easy, then you don't need the Holy Spirit, but when it's like, I have no idea how this is going to pan out, now we need the Lord, to kind of come in and get us through it,
Yeah. We're get on our hands and knees because we've tried and that's part of like what you're saying. I was thinking about is when I get frustrated is when I'm trying something, I'm pushing something and come to find out I was kind of doing it my way on my timing. I was impatient. And so it's just that reminder to me, and I've actually been, 1 Corinthians talks about that we need that patient endurance to continue doing, the will of God. And that's where I can get tripped up is sometimes I run out of patience. And then sometimes am I doing the will of God or the will of Corey?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's that good reminder. So I think for both of us, just to continue to push, but with that patience, knowing that God's got a plan and timing. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope you are enjoying it so far. Before we go back to the rest of this episode, I want to share with you my book, Win at Home First. Some of you have read it, so thank you very much. For others of you, you have not. And I encourage, if you're looking for a resource to help you with these times of your work is now in your home and your home is now in your work and what this looks like, this book is being helpful to many leaders like you. Forbes magazine said it was one of 7 books everyone on your team should read. And the book is broken up into 4 different sections to help you. First is about you, understand who you are. The second is marriage and ideas and tips to help with your marriage. Third is parenting. And the last is work. So these 4 different sections to help you recalibrate during this time and to help move forward. So if you are needing additional resources, I encourage you to check out my book, Win at Home First. It is available on Amazon as well as Audible. And so on to the rest of the episode. Thank you very much. So we talked at the very beginning about Win at Home First is really what will set you up for success.
Yeah.
How's that looked in your whole life? I mean, unless you're just, an amazing, perfect guy, you've had probably some missteps along the way of raising a young family. And, as you climbed up the ladder at Epifio, what did that look like when you had it wrong? And how were you able to come out of it and recalibrate for that listener who's in that moment of, oh crap, I'm doing this wrong?
I think the best way to describe it would be that I misunderstood or incorrectly estimated what was needed of me at home, right? I would think, oh, home's great. The kids are great. Wife's great. I should spend more time focusing on the business. And, you come to find out, well, that is not true. Like, actually, they needed you way more than you thought. And, then I'm kind of like shocked, when I find out, like, well, I thought everything was fine, so when I've gotten it wrong, it's because there's probably, I'm not as innocent in that as it might sound. Like, it's probably some sort of willful, decision I make to try to, get off the hook a little bit and be able to spend more time doing something where, the benefits are more immediate or the recognition is more immediate. Like, I would never go more than a week at my business without having like a team meeting.
That's right. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. But I'll go like a month without, right. And not think anything of it at home.
Absolutely.
Right. There are things that you would never do at work that just become kind of like, well, they don't need that from dad. They don't need that.
Yeah.
When I get it right, it's when I'm realizing, what, they need dad. And dad has a really crucial role in this family. And dad's got to show up every day, and bring, what I can bring. And I don't neglect that.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Things you never do at work, we do at home. We all have direct reports, and it's, hey, you got to have that cadence, that one-on-one time. And at home, we just let that slip. Yep. One of the first things I do when I get a new client, or even if I'm just talking with a friend, but it's, how's marriage and when was the last time you went on a date?
That's right.
And it's like, oh man, it's been a while. And same thing for our kids. Talking with a guy yesterday, and he is not doing like those dates with his kids. And it's like, we've got to do that. Be present, hear what's going on.
Yes.
I did something with my kids. I heard this, but hey, kids, on a scale from 0 to 10, how am I as a dad? Where do I rank?
Wow.
Give me the number. And then what would I need to do to get to a 10?
Love it.
Well, it was awesome. It was humbling, and I still do it a few different times. But
what was your score?
Well, it kind of fluctuates. But I think my score was, you're a great dad. You're a 7. But I tell you what, they knew how to speak to the shortage.
They knew where it was.
Oh, and the shortage for me, and you may actually have the same thing. Being a strong leader and having a lot of things you want to kind of check off the box to get done. I said, what I needed to be better. And they said, don't be so intense and coachy in the morning. I was like, what?
Wow.
And so I get up at 5 a.m. and it's either go to the gym or I do my quiet time. And then they kind of flip flop based on the day. So I've got this routine. Well, when I do either one of them, I'm come 7, I'm ready. Like, kids, what's your vision and values for your life? What's your plans for the day? Did you do your devotion? Like, all over the top. They all roll their eyes.
Doing jumping jacks.
Yeah. And so one of the things, well, Dad, if you want to get to a 10, no hard conversations before noon. That's what my 12-year-old daughter said. And then my 8-year-old son's right there. He's like, I agree. So that's the joke in our house. Like, Dad, it's 11:50. It's 11:50. Stop.
Well, good on you that, the issue is not an issue of passivity, but of being too aggressive. Most of us, we fail on the other side of that. It's probably easier to pull back a little bit than it is to kind of get revved up, so.
Yeah. And I go back and forth, and I know listeners do too, is it's, maybe we hear a podcast or we hear, a church sermon or we hear something. It's like, all right, I got to go be that intentional follower. I got to go do all these things. We get some rolled eyes. We get some pushback, and then we overswing, and we don't do anything for a week or a month or however long it goes. Absolutely. And I think for that listener listening, this is all about recalibration. Mm-hmm. Just check yourself. If you're too passive, all right, let's have some intentionality. If you're too high challenge, let's take our foot off the gas.
That's right.
Because what I don't want to do is be too high challenge that I turn them away from me, but also I turn away from God. Because you and I both know people who don't like God anymore because of some high dictator in their life.
That's right. And this is where, I don't know how it is with you and your wife, but this is where my wife is really helpful, because she's sometimes that objective third party for me to say, hey, you got to tone it down a little bit. Or, hey, come on, you got to ratchet up. You hit the nail on the head. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to do Bible studies with my kids in the morning and they're not paying attention, and it drives you crazy. It's like, what? This is important. And then you go, you know what? Screw it. I'm not doing Bible studies anymore.
Fine, just do Among Us for the rest of your life. Right. Among Us, Fortnite. If that's what you think will get you in life, go for it.
That's right. And Tara's always like, hey, just you don't have to like throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like, let's you don't have to read the Bible for 45 minutes. Like you could read it for 2. And let's start baby steps here.
So. Yeah. If I don't have any time for that, I say, hey, just be the light. Be the light today. Got to go. See ya.
That's right.
Part of my story I talk about, Lucas, is handing over my story for a greater story. Knowing parts of your overall story, I know you got some moments like that, but I'd love to hear from you. As I say that today, where have you had to hand over your smaller story for a greater story in your life?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely had, let's say, what's that language, Kairos moment or Kairos moments? Like, I definitely had one of those early on in my life with Jesus and with my job and with all that kind of stuff. But I mean, Corey, I feel like I'm coming up to another one right now. I feel like these last, 6 or 7 years, I've had amazing people build into me and teach me amazing things about God and about work and about family. And, I think I started to get into a little bit of that, like I shared before, the simple, comfortable Christian life. And, make sure my 401k is funded and make sure I've got all my responsibilities. And if I make extra money, here's what I can invest in, and again, those are all important things, but it was like, they started to become like the most important things, and I feel like God's kind of asking me, like, is that really the story you want? Or do you want to live on the front lines with me? Like, do you want to, I've been using this language. God's like, do you want to be a part of my business? You know what my business is? Right? It's like setting people free. And it's like serving people. And it's loving people, right? That you want to be a part of that business? Because guess what? Because here's what was happening. Well, that sounds interesting. I'd love to do that, but man, I'm so busy. Man, that sounds so cool. We should, reach out to our neighbors and try to, but man, we got so many young kids. We're so tired, right? We kept coming up with all these reasons why not to do this stuff. And I feel like God's calling us right now and saying, hey, do you want to trade that story in where you're overwhelmed and tired because you got so much going on in your life all the time for my business and my story, which is loving people, bringing people into my family and doing what I did when I was there, and I want that story, I'm actively, I would say, I think I'm right now in the middle of, okay, I'm handing over that story and saying, okay, God, we're in, like, let's start reorienting and reprioritizing. And, Tara and I are going through our schedule right now and saying, all right, we got to start getting this stuff out of here that makes us feel like to add that stuff in would overwhelm us. Okay. If that's what's happening, then the other stuff's got to go, because that's the stuff that's more important. And I'm excited about it. And that's when I know, like, it's a good trade.
That's good. What are some of the stuff you're saying no to?
I get asked to lead things a lot. I get asked to be a part of things a lot. I get asked to, and I like saying yes. I like saying yes to that stuff. Even, good stuff, leading a discipleship thing with these guys or all that kind of stuff. We're trying to get like super laser focused right now. God has put us in this house, in this neighborhood, on this street, and there are people all around me, right? Yep. And there are people, like you said, there are people in my house right now. So anything that kind of doesn't, and I'm trying not to be too radical with it. I think you can kind of, get a little overboard, but I'm trying to be as disciplined as I can with it. So pretty much anything that's pulling me outside of that sphere, I'm saying no to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are you finding yourself saying yes to that's kind of new and then maybe you didn't really pay attention to earlier? Either you said yes kind of just by accident, but now what are some yeses that you and Tara are saying that are aligning with this bigger story?
We have some neighbors that we have a relationship with, but we've never actually like taken the next step with them. We've never like, hey, come over for a dinner.
Yeah.
We've never done that. And we had a neighbor over the house the other day, and she was talking about her kid was over and they were playing out in the yard, and I heard my wife say, hey, why don't you guys come over for dinner? And I was like, yes, that's it. That's what we want to say yes to. Like let's start making those. And again, it's not big things here, right? I mean, this is like, hey, it's our neighbors. It's who we live next to, like, and so we're going to start saying yes to them. And we're going to start saying yes to the people that God has put in our lives versus, I think what we've done is, who do we like? Who do we want to come over?
Yeah. Who do we like, who looks like us and acts like us?
That's right.
All right, let's go find them.
That's right.
Before he lived in Cincinnati, lived in Denver, and a pastor by the name of Jay Pathak did this sermon series that turned into a book. But on the cover of the book, and it ended up being a big part of the series, was a house and then all the houses around it. And do you know their names, what they do, what they like? And then one of the more, kind of pointed questions is, do they know that you know and love Jesus? And it's like, ooh, so that's just a great high challenge for all of us of, getting back to the neighborhood thing. And, COVID made us all kind of realize we need to like our neighbors because we may not be going too far away from them.
They're afraid. And we have the hope of the gospel. Like we have that, like, and they need it. It's not about like, come to my church or agree with my doctrine. It's like, and think about it, God the Father, these are his children and they're lost, and he wants them to know him and to be in this community, in this relationship that we have. And so that's what's been getting me excited again, is not thinking about, okay, well, on the third dinner, do I have to preach the gospel to them? And the second time I call them, do I have to quote a Bible verse?
It's like, no, you need that formula.
It's like, no, just have a meal with them, get to know them, talk to them, dive in with them. People are hungry for this, especially right now. They're hungry and they're dying for it. And we've got it,
That's good. I was talking to a guy yesterday who was talking similar to you with a kid on the way. And we were kind of talking about seasons and almost excuses. I told him, and just say with you to encourage you is, every season is going to be an excuse. And, right now you got that 1-year-old and you've got a kid on the way. Well, in a year, you're going to have a 2-year-old and a infant. I mean, there's always an excuse. And so just that encouragement is, now's the time, because, instead of the season controlling you, control the season.
That's right.
And so, hopefully that's encouragement to you as you press on to some new things this season.
That's right. Thank you.
What's the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
Well, that's a good question. Probably LinkedIn. Yeah. I don't have I don't have Facebook or Instagram anymore, but LinkedIn, you can see me, epifio.com. You can see the business, connect with me, shoot me a note. Love to chat.
Why'd you get rid of Facebook and Instagram?
That stuff was killing me.
Yeah.
It was just,
well, it's killing the whole country. And,
I know
world for that matter. And I've got my good days and I got my bad days.
Man, every time I noticed I was getting on there, I was getting angry. I was not liking people. I mean, there used to be a time when you didn't know what people thought about everything, and it made it a lot easier to like people when you didn't know their opinion on everything. Right?
How long ago did you stop those social media platforms?
It's been a little while now, 6 months or something.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And I'm Corey, I have not missed it a bit.
Really?
I haven't missed it a bit. I have, what I did is
Mark Zuckerberg may find a way to mute that sentence because he doesn't want to stop usage at Facebook.
Well, we still have the technologies, right? So, I have a text group with my family, my extended family, right? So if I want to share a picture of the baby or, so I just share it to them, and I get that connection from them. I have other text groups with other buddies. I'm on WhatsApp with some people. I'm on Boxer with other people. So the technology still works, but that the unfiltered, everybody just, airing their grievances. It wasn't healthy for me.
For you. Yeah. No, I get it. But what's interesting, as we talked about earlier, is the path of least resistance. Sometimes just picking up that phone. And so whether you're on 20 platforms or it's just YouTube, you could still just get sucked in. So Absolutely. It's that, kind of 100%. Encouragement to all of us of, hey, we got to stand firm.
That's right.
Man, thanks so much. It was awesome to talk with you and just love what you're doing with your family and with Epifio and in this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate it, man.
I want to thank you for listening to my podcast, Win at Home First. I am so grateful to hear from listeners like you that this content has been helpful. So now I would love for you to pay it forward. I want to get this message in the hands of more listeners. We need leaders to be winning both at home and at work, especially during this time. So please take a minute to share this episode with somebody you think would find value in it, as well as rate and subscribe. As a thank you, please visit my website at corymcarlson.com to download a free resource that people are finding value in. Thank you very much.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.